Mma Boxing Talk here. I'm going to make a quick video giving my fight of the year, knockout of the year, fighter of the year, my awards for 2019. I'm not going to have a million categories, just the main ones everyone's most interested in. I'm going to start with an MMA fight of the year. There was a lot of good fights this year. For me, it was pretty easy. I thought Adesanya versus Gastelum back in April was, I thought that was the fight of the year. It went all 5 rounds. It was at the championship level. There was a lot of crazy momentum swings. For me, the ideal fight of the year. And of course, all these are subjective, but I also thought Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier was another really good fight. That was my runner-up. Usman versus Covington, that was another really good one. Excuse me. Miocic versus Cormier, the rematch, that was a really good fight. Vicente Luque versus Brian Barberena, that was a crazy one. Probably the craziest fight of the year, but it just wasn't the championship level. It didn't go, 4 or 5 rounds. For me, the longer the fight goes, if it's at the championship level, these things, give more weight to those fights. Like Adesanya Gastelum, that kind of had it all. But the Luque Barberena one was very crazy. And of course, Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero, which was a classic 3-round war. That fight could have been a draw. Romero maybe could have won it, but when I rewatched it, I thought, Costa slightly won it, or possibly a draw. Let me know what you guys think, what your fight of the year was. I think, can never remember, I don't know if it's Tapology or Fight Metric or one of them, the fans vote, and Adesanya Gastelum was the most, voted for 2019. Moving on to the knockout of the year. So many knockouts this year. And for me, the knockouts, they got to be stiff, clean knockouts, especially in MMA. If you drop a guy and you have to ground and pound to put him out, that's not really going to count. Even though sometimes, my winner is Masvidal, the flying knee over Ben Askren. And yes, he followed up with some ground and pound, but he didn't need to. We could already tell Askren was completely out of it. That's my knockout of the year. It was the craziest, 5 seconds. There was a lot at stake. Don't forget, this fight was going to determine who was going to get the next title shot. People tend to forget that, and they say, oh, Ben Askren's a scrub, blah, blah, blah. He was undefeated for a long time, and nobody saw that coming. There was a lot of build-up. Like I said, it was a title eliminator fight. That's my knockout of the year. So many good honorable mentions, and I wrote down a bunch. Anthony Pettis knocking out Wonderboy. That was my upset of the year in MMA. Pettis over Wonderboy, especially the way it happened. No one saw that coming. Not to mention, Wonderboy was easily winning that fight, cruising his way to a unanimous decision. That was a 3rd-round knockout. Alexander Rakic versus Jimmy Manuwa. That was a deadly head kick. Very vicious. Of course, Shevchenko versus Jessica Ai. That was an impressive knockout. Also, another guy, Masvidal, his knockout against Darren Till. That's another really vicious knockout. One I should have mentioned a little bit earlier is Kevin Lee head kick knockout against Gregor Gillespie. That was a pretty shocking moment this year. A lot of people thought this was a kind of a weird fight for Lee to take. He needed a win. Gillespie was seen as this, the next Khabib kind of thing by a lot of fans. And I thought that was going to be a really interesting fight. And, 1st round, quick knockout. And that's, of course, Kevin Lee, now training with Faraz Zahabi. One I noticed no one's mentioning is Josh Emmett's knockout over Michael Johnson. That was pretty vicious. I believe that was 2019. Maybe it's not, but I'm pretty sure. And Jessica Andrade dropping Rose on her head. That was crazy. Let me know what you guys think. Your knockout of the year. Fighter of the year. This had a lot of debate. For me, it's a 1A, 1B. I thought Masvidal slightly deserves it. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I thought collectively his 3 wins were more flawless, more impressive than Adesanya's. Now, I know Adesanya won the title, and that win against Whitaker was more impressive than any individual win Masvidal had this year. But Masvidal put 2, title contenders out clean, knocked them out stiff, Till and Askren, and then nobody's really ever done what he did to Nate Diaz before. Nate Diaz in those 15 minutes couldn't really generate any kind of offense, and we never see that. Even when he's losing, Nate Diaz is always, in the fight. He was just getting outclassed completely. So that was really impressive. The reason why I have Adesanya 1B personally is because the fight against Anderson Silva, yes, he won, but it wasn't the most impressive, dominating performance. And Kelvin Gastelum, great fighter, but he's 5'9". He really should be fighting at welterweight, despite him being a really good middleweight. He did go kind of life and death a little bit with Kelvin Gastelum. So for that reason, I kind of got to give Masvidal the slight edge. But I mean, if you come to me say, Adesanya's the fighter of the year, I'm not going to argue with you. There's a great case for Adesanya as well. So Henry Cejudo also had a really, really good year. Kamaru Usman, what a year. I mean, dominating Woodley and then doing that to Colby Covington. Those are 2 really, really good wins. And then outside the UFC, of course, Patricio Pitbull becoming a 2-division champ in Bellator. That was very impressive, knocking out Michael Chandler. Pitbull's also in the featherweight Grand Prix tournament for Bellator. He's the champ. He's defending his belt, I believe, against Pedro Carvalho in round 2 of this tournament. So I'm looking forward to that. I've been covering that tournament, so keep an eye out for that. So that's my awards for MMA. Sorry, I gotta get some water here. Now, quickly on to boxing. Boxing had so many good fights this year. Personally, my fight of the year was Inoue versus Donaire. That had everything, high level. You had, the storyline, the young guy, pound for pound fighter, and then the old guy kind of, having a last stand in his career, a last push. He showed a lot of greatness in the ring, Donaire, that night, but it just wasn't quite enough. And that's saying a lot. Inoue was just so impressive. That was a great fight. That was my fight of the year. Also, Josh Taylor versus Regis Prograis. It was a unification fight. Both guys were undefeated. Both guys were confident. That was a really good fight. Each guy had one eye shut. The next day, had a picture together. It was a really good war. One fight for me was my fight of the year early on, and then of course we had all these good fights more to the last quarter of the year. But Julian J. Rock Williams versus Jarrett Hurd, that was an amazing war. Williams put on a great performance, but he showed a lot of heart, and he took some punches in that fight too. And of course, Hurd showed his whole, how amazing his chin is and his durability is. That was a really good fight. Earl Spence versus Sean Porter, a great fight. Spence getting that knockdown, scored that knockdown, really helped him on the scorecards because that was a very close fight. Golovkin, Derevianchenko, that was a war. Golovkin kind of showing his age a lot in that fight. You got to wonder, is all the the years of wars for Golovkin starting to have its toll? And I think it is, and age is there too. Age is a factor. And you got to remember, he's coming off of 2 insane Canelo fights back-to-back years. I mean, the first one, he took some shots, but the second one was a war. That was one of the best fights. That was my fight of the year in 2018, Canelo-Golovkin rematch. That was, what a war that was, and at a high level. Canelo, he wasn't on his bicycle whatsoever in that fight. But back to 2019, also other fights of the year. Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman. What a fight for Pac-Man to do that. Actually, I put out a video. Pac-Man is my fighter of the year and fighter of the decade. I already made a video for that. Go check that out if you haven't seen it already. And also, personally, like I said, for my fight of the year, I like to see fights that are at the higher level, the championship level, and that go a little longer. those I find those have more weight for me. But Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua, the first fight, I can't, not mention that one. Despite it, I think it only went 6 or 7 rounds. I think it was 7 rounds. I can't remember. Maybe it was 5. Jeez, my memory is still horrible. But that was a crazy fight because Joshua dropped Ruiz, and then Ruiz dropped Joshua twice in that same round. That third round was round of the year by far. Ruiz Joshua round 3 back in I believe it was June. Now, fighter of the year, like I just said, I have Pacquiao, but you can also make a good case for Canelo Alvarez. I believe Ring Magazine gave Canelo Alvarez fighter of the year. I have no problem with that. Josh Taylor, beat Baranchek and also beat Regis Prograis, 2 undefeated fighters. He had a heck of a year, and we can't forget Inoue. Inoue had a great year, smashing all those guys. And then, of course, that fight of the year with Donaire. And I'm trying to think of the last guy I didn't write down here. Anyway, I'll leave it in the comments if I can't think of it. But yeah, lots of impressive wins this year. Let me know what you guys think. Those are my picks for fight of the year, fighter of the year, knockout of the year. Yeah, that's it for this one. If you liked the video, subscribe. Peace. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Teofimo Lopez also had a really good year. I know he had a really shitty fight against Nakatani, but he had some wins earlier in the year that were very spectacular. And that fight against Richard Commey, to put him out in 2 rounds, a guy that was supposed to test him. And I think I had a 5th round knockout for Teo. That's what I was predicting, but it came even quicker than that. And it's going to be interesting against Loma. I don't know if he can get it done against Loma, especially not in that manner. But you never know. He's young, he's explosive, he's big, he's powerful. That's it for this one. If you liked the video, subscribe. Peace.